symmetry going on.
I refuse.
Today's
It will never fit in.
GGG.
Gory.
Someone suggested we change his name to Gory, which
I don't know. I like Gory. Gory is a town in
Gory
Ireland,
sounds
actually.
cool.
Yeah.
So today's subject is intros. We're going to say best and worst, and by intros we mean the opening segments of games, anything from FMVs to gameplay segments to tutorials. So, would anyone like to start?
Are we doing them in
No.
like
We're
by?
going to let Gabe talk more this week.
Huh? Well,
Because
no.
Gabe's the only one who knows what he's fucking talking about.
Yeah, pretty
Well,
much.
everyone was talking over Corey
He's a
last time,
knowledgeable
so
one.
I don't know. Which is kind of funny.
So I guess I'll start with one of my favorite intros from last gen. Not necessarily my favorite game, but the intro to BioShock, I think, was just absolutely sublime.
Yeah, that's a
Not
good
so
choice.
much the bit on the plane with the voiceover. I feel like the voiceover was a little bit out of didn't really feel like it fit that well. But when you actually land in the water, and that's just gorgeous. And then you get this nice slow exploration of the beginnings of Rapture, and then that
Yeah, it's
speech by
fantastic.
Andrew Ryan, just really atmospheric, really sold you on the game concept.
I think both of Levine's Bioshock games had wonderful intros.
I wasn't really a fan of Infinite at all, but I will say that the intro was absolutely fantastic. Like when you shoot up in the sky and the song is playing, and you're just like slowly descending down into Colombia, I thought that was really awesome. But then the rest of the game happened, so.
Yeah. With Infinite, I'm kind of stuck between it being like obviously a riff on the original BioShock intro, but I do really like the symmetry of it being essentially the same thing but in reverse.
Yeah.
Like in BioShock, you start in the sky, you end in water, and then you enter Rapture. And then in BioShock Infinite, you start in your boat, you go into the sky, and then you end up in water in part of the baptism scene that starts the game.
Yeah,
And
it's very clever.
yeah, it's clever. I mean, it's a little bit masturbatory, but I always thought that was a really clever kind of take. And then it really tied into the end of the game with how it was all kind of a game about BioShock, basically. Which again, very masturbatory, but clever.
Yeah,
Well, I think it was a little more
really-
masturbatory than clever, but yeah, I'll give him that. It was clever at least.
Well, it's not. There's
no, I
something
love
that
the
like
story
everyone
in
will
Infinite.
notice,
I
like
thought it was
especially if
great.
you haven't played the original BioShock. You just be like, oh, this is interesting, you know.
Yeah.
I think if you're playing Infinite without playing the original BioShock, you're kind of missing out on the point. Like, I quite liked Infinite, but it is a game about how good BioShock was.
Especially considering when you add on the DLC for Infinite, which has another ending that you would need to really have played the first Bioshock to understand.
I hated that DLC. I hated
Really?
it so much.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I know
loved it,
we
man.
disagreed on this. I just thought
Yeah.
they were...
I loved it.
The DLC felt like it was trying to explain
Wait a minute.
away
You
a lot of the creative
you
criticism
hated
of it.
something I liked? How is that possible?
Yeah, it's unusual.
Want the world.
Well, like one of the other things that like there's a really great critique. I'm gonna plug one of my favorite channels of BioShock Infinite by YouTuber Matthew Matosis that you should go watch after this podcast, of course, because this is better. But
Much.
it kind of takes like big. I don't normally take umbrage with like how time travel works in video games because obviously it's not real and you know everything does it differently. But I thought BioShock's Infinite's especially kind of grated with me a little bit. On the whole, like, well, obviously spoilers, but you know what happened. I assume everyone here has beaten it. You know the whole.
Yeah, we're not going to do spoilers though because of the audience.
Yeah. No, I know. I wasn't going to go into spoilers, but the whole, you know, the whole thing, basically, kind of
the whole thing.
ground on me. Yeah.
I don't know. There was a lot of problems with Infinite. It was not a great game.
I always think when people get too caught up with like nitpicking over science and things, I think you're only doing yourself a disservice sometimes because you're stunting how much you can enjoy stories for just what they are. Stories.
Yeah, I think I was being too harsh on Infinite because I didn't. It
That's
just
not
didn't
a
particularly
criticism
grab
on
me
you,
in the
Gabe.
first place.
I mean that in general, just people who like constantly picking out plot holes and things, and like I just feel, you know, you're stunting your own enjoyment, and that's all.
Oh, like you can kind of say that, but it's like it's not. They may not be doing it actively. It may just be like it's so apparent to them that it just hurts. Like, because if it is just like a plot hole or just like this doesn't make any sense. This isn't like how humans act. Like I have no, it
obviously
hasn't been
like,
set up for you. But
yeah, obviously everyone's line is different there. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
I mean,
There is actually a word for that, and I've completely forgotten what it is. It's not realism, but it means like it doesn't break
authenticity
your
or
disbelief.
I think it's another thing
or...
with like narrative dissonance.
Yeah, and like there's a difference between being a nitpicky dick, like that Cinema Sins show on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that just annoys the shit out of me.
I like it, but it is
Isn't
just like
isn't
most
that
of the
kind
time
of
it's
just
like,
played for
come on.
laughs, though?
Some
Yeah,
of it is, but some of
they-
it, like a lot of
they
people
did it.
parrot it as genuine criticism, and it isn't. It's
Well, I remember watching like the honest trailer thing, which is kind of like I think it's partnered with Cinema Sins or whatever for the Winter Soldier, and it was just like because this movie was so good, but this is a parody channel. Prepare for nitpicking.
and there's a difference between nitpicking and like something so egregious to the plot that it takes you out of the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Mass
So
Effect
there's
3.
there's a difference.
Mass Effect 3, this is an interesting thing. People go nuts about Mass Effect 3 and space magic, right? In Mass Effect 2, you die in the opening minutes of the game, fall from orbit to a planet, being burnt to a crisp, and then you get revived. And that's apparently not space
You
magic.
die and are in a dead coma for 2 years.
Literally, Space Jesus is not space magic.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just medical advances, alright?
Yeah, actually, to be fair, I would disagree on that because they spend like the entire first portion of the game explaining how that all happened, whereas with the whole space magic ending, it just happened and that was it.
On that subject, Mass Effect 2, as much as I dislike the game,
I was just going to say the same thing.
has a
Amazing
fantastic
intro.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I think
absolutely brilliant.
the Space Jesus thing like fucked the plot completely, and it's one of the reasons Mass Effect 3 ended up being so kind of sloppy. But as an intro to a sequel, just like killing quite a few of the characters you used to, destroying the ship you used to, and just decimating the character you built is really interesting from a narrative perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
I mean, I hadn't played a Mass Effect game before Mass Effect 2 because I just hadn't really heard of it, and I just went out and bought it on a whim, and I was just hooked immediately, even with no connection from the previous game, because it sold me on the strength of the intro alone, which is saying something,
It was a beautiful sequence too.
Yeah.
That bit where you come out, it's all fire and it's reds and dark and like horror, and then you come out the door and the ship's been breached and it's all quiet and you can see like a big chunk of space and this planet like looming in the background.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
fantastic.
just
Very
when I
cool.
went like, dude, that was awesome, Yeah, I haven't actually gotten around to Mass Effect 3 yet, the actual game. I played a bunch of the multiplayer, but I remember actually I was thinking of going out to buy it, like when it was just coming out, and then I saw Gav tweeting about the ending, and I was like, maybe I should reconsider.
Oh, the ending is ruinous.
Yeah,
I
felt so bad for you, dude.
yeah, I was literally
comprehend what they were
fucking.
thinking.
I could not comprehend the emotion I was feeling that I was so upset over something that is essentially entertainment. I just couldn't. It broke my heart so bad. I was like, and man, I've
Dude,
been
maybe
through
that's
some
the
shit
play, though.
in
Maybe
life.
that's...
So
Yeah,
I have
I
some
was gonna say.
perspective. I have perspective on life. I've been through some shit, but that still broke my heart. And I was like, why am I so upset over a fucking story?
Yeah,
I didn't even like the series that much, and that hurt. Like,
yeah.
Really?
I know Mass
I
Effect
think
3
it's
had
in
its
some ways-
problems, but it was. Go ahead, Kev.
I just think in some ways it's a testament to how well BioWare did their world that people cared that much about it,
Yeah. It is a fantastic universe. That was like the best part of Mass Effect 2 and why it took me so long to beat, because it was one of the few like unfamiliar universes that I just felt like diving into and wanted to know everything about. So the polar opposite of Destiny,
And the first
actually,
ending literally made everyone think that they had destroyed the entire universe in like
Yeah.
a 3-second sequence because they didn't explain what
They
that
were
certain
so
thing happening
short.
actually meant.
It was cheap. The whole game, to be honest, was cheap, which I think it didn't so much get me the first playthrough because it's a very emotional game. It's very emotionally charged, which I liked. I thought it was actually more engaging than Mass Effect 2 and 1 in that like shit was happening everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you play through it the second time, and you're like, hold on, this game, made millions on a franchise that's made millions, and it's so fucking cheap. Like, it looks like shit. The animation's terrible. There's corners
think-
being cut everywhere.
I think that was more an indication of the time in which they were allotted to do it, wasn't it?
You think, yeah, like,
rather than
yeah.
I also think like
Because
the engine and the models were very obviously aging towards the end of the generation.
Yeah, definitely.
In comparison
but
to some
actually, I
prettier
thought
games.
the animations to me seemed better in Mass Effect 2.
They did.
Yeah.
Like the running animations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know why they just didn't reuse them.
Yeah, it seemed a lot more weird. Like when I played as FemShep, and I never noticed this in the previous games, but when I played as FemShep, and she has the same animations as male Shep, it makes her look like bow-legged.
Yeah,
She like
yeah.
waddles everywhere, and like she's got this
he
like,
looks
ridiculous
bow-legged as well,
shoulder
though.
swear.
He kind of looked a bit bow-legged in 3 as well.
Yeah.
So this
Well, I
is-
mean, the first playthrough I played as Dude Shep because I wasn't really aware of.
Because you made a mistake.
Because I made a
Like
mistake.
like me.
Yeah, and I
What?
haven't,
Man, I
as
love
much as I
Dude
like Mass
Shep.
Effect 2, I kind of haven't had the drive to go back to it. I just
Dude,
don't really replay games.
Jennifer
Other than-
Hale just shat all over the male voice actor, like
Yeah.
just from a great
To the point where we
shit
don't even know his
everywhere.
name.
Yeah, it's just
I just like them both, man.
Yeah.
guy who
think they were
isn't
both great.
Troy Baker or Nolan North just got shat on.
Yeah.
So this has mostly been a discussion of endings this far. Does anyone else have an
Yeah,
intro they want to
intro.
add?
I'd like to talk about 2 Metal Gear games at once.
Oh, here we go.
Because I can.
It can't be Metal Gear 3, dude. Like, I know you love that game, but the intro isn't that impressive.
Dude, yes it is. Oh, it's
God,
awesome.
it was actually that one, huh?
Okay.
Do it.
All right, I'm just gonna talk about the entire series then. You
No,
want-
no, go with what you were going with. I just
You want to
knew it was
push
gonna be
me?
Metal
I
Gear
will
3.
push further. Actually, I was going to talk about Metal Gear Solid 2 instead. I was going to draw comparisons between the 2 intros, but yeah,
No, go for it. That's
because
an
they're
interesting line
basically
of thought.
they're basically the same thing, but almost completely different.
Now
The
you
same, but
mention it- yeah,
I'm talking about like the intro to the tanker chapter, obviously.
yeah, obviously.
Because the tanker has Snake running along the Manhattan Bridge and then diving off onto the tanker, and the MGS3 has Snake diving out of the plane into the jungles of the tropical jungles of Russia, which is totally a thing. And I noticed that you can like draw a lot of similarities between them in that even though you're playing as a completely different character, it is a different person in both games. That the intros are almost exactly the same. The way they land and they sort of draw themselves up, tucking their arms in, then standing up, and then taking the mask and the camel off or whatever. It's I just like them both so much because the music is amazing. Metal Gear. Ugh.
Well, in
I
3,
can't
you
talk
can even
eloquently
wear-
about it.
In 3, you can even wear like a riding mask on your way down.
Yeah, you can, and it's great because it like pauses the cutscene and you briefly go into a codec call and Snake says something like, Can I take this off now? It's making me uncomfortable." And it even introduces you as like Jack, and then Jack voiced by David Hayter. Then you take the mask off, and it pans back around to Snake's face, and then it says Snake voiced by David Hayter.
Which is a beautiful callback to the famous bait and switch that Metal Gear
Yeah.
Solid 2 started with.
Yeah, because I mean, I like Raiden a lot, but I mean, if I was a Metal Gear fan back then, and I was, but I wasn't really old enough to care.
Yeah, same here.
I would have been, I probably would have been pissed, but I like
thought
Raiden. a lot,
Raiden
yeah.
was interesting. Obviously I missed Snake as a character, but I also thought it was very interesting to look at him from like a third-person perspective.
Yeah, it was. Which I don't think the rest of the series really gave us a chance to, because like in 4, you were just back to the same Snake, the kind of Snake that gets talked at in cutscenes and doesn't really have a character at all.
Yeah, whereas in 2, he's like quite a scheming. Everything he tells you is lies for like the first 3/4 of the game.
Pretty much. And even then, like at the end, he's not entirely honest with you.
Yeah, which is interesting because everyone lies to him throughout the other games.
Yeah. I
Like
guess
he's
a
always
prick
been
as well.
the butt of the joke in that regard.
Yeah.
I'm just realized this is going to be the Metal Gear Solid show with 2 silent.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Gav.
wanted to. I wanted
I've
to
not
like talk
played
about
those
those two because they're like really epic and bombastic. You're diving out of a plane into a James Bond movie, and you're diving off a bridge onto a tanker full of crazy Russians with a giant mech. Those are some cool setups. And then the one in Metal Gear Solid 4, you're in a truck with some dudes in the Middle East that are going to get sent to get slaughtered. And it's as much as I don't really like 4 compared to the other ones, I really like how it's anticlimactic from the start. Like compared to the super bombastic intros of the previous It starts off,
true.
you know, a lot more somber and a lot less, I suppose. It just in
And
general.
then it goes fucking mental.
Yeah, and then you watch a movie for 9 hours.
Then there's like zombies and Snake getting microwaved while the guy who shits himself steals his girlfriend. I hated that fucking game.
I hated Johnny being upgraded to a main character, but the final act of Metal Gear Solid 4 is fucking fantastic. I love the microwave corridor. I love the Ocelot fight.
It was
I love
so,
all
like,
of it.
It reaches this point towards like the third quarter of the game where they're trying to obviously get that Grey Fox moment in with like the noble sacrifices. So it's just people attempting to kill themselves over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they basically repeat the thing. It's just a different cyborg ninja getting crushed by a way bigger Metal Gear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I love that scene as well. I love how, like, fucking unfortunate Raiden is. You know, in a series full of characters that just, like, have the most shitty luck ever, Raiden is just above and beyond. Because he's just he's a brain and a spinal cord. And that's it.
What I found funny was he was a much more interesting character, I think, before he got turned into, like, badass mega robot.
Yeah, well, it's because he was, like, a non-character in 2 you were supposed to project on him. But once you get into Arsenal gear, he, like, rejects that blank slateness. And, you know, he's got, like, that disturbing backstory of, like, being a child soldier and, you know, being the best child soldier and everything. So, I don't know. I could talk about Metal Gear forever. Let's move on.
We could, actually. We should move on. Anyone else got a suggestion?
I've got one for my favorite intro and like sequence. It's Halo on the original, the OG Halo.
Oh yeah,
because it starts off and it's and you're just like, I don't know, it's like your first time playing a dual stick, like a shooter on like a new console, you know. It starts you off like showing you.
Have we not played Time Splitters? Are we that casual?
No.
Sorry,
Time Splitters.
Okay, when did Time Splitters come out though? Because like
actually, you might be right. Actually, it wasn't.
But okay, so anyways, it starts you out and it shows you like it just gets you oriented and like, all right, use this stick to look around, and then it has you go up to like the light things to set up if you want to be like inverted or not. And then it starts, and then it like throws you down the corridors of the ship that's exploding, and it like introduces you to the mechanics really cleanly. Like it's something that happens in like all games now, but it seemed pretty new at the time. Like you know, you have to turn on your flashlight in a dark area, then you crouch under a thing, and then I don't know, and then you're fighting aliens on a goddamn spaceship. So it's kick ass.
Come to think of it, like it does. When you're initially looking around with the stick, it kind of sells that as a medical exam.
Yeah,
And
it does. Yeah,
that sounds like I know other games have done that, but I can't remember if any games did that before Halo.
I know Halo 3 did it after you crashed into the Earth or whatever.
Yeah, it was like a suit check.
Recalibrating your helmet or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then they also introduce you to the shield system, which is now like employed everywhere, where it's just like you can take damage, you know, but you'll just regen back to full kind of thing.
That was such a perfect fit for Halo.
Yeah, it like made sense for Halo, whereas it doesn't for like COD or whatever.
Military shooters. Yeah.
Well, in COD it's different. In the original Halo, you had health and you had health packs that could be restored, and that
yeah.
like, when you got shot and you lost health, you just lost health, but you had the regenerating shields. Because the game was all about like 30-second engagements.
Yeah.
And then obviously your shield regens really quickly, which I think is important when you're doing regenerating health in general. And then you engage something else for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Great game.
And it
Absolutely
just
great
fits
game.
the lore just so well, and yeah.
Makes you feel like a living tank, which is what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Let's just all be grateful the library wasn't the opening level.
Yeah.
You know,
I've never played the
actually
original Halo,
don't
but
mind the
even
library all that much.
Even
Dude, it legitimately gave me fears as a child.
Of books?
Really?
Yes, that is why I've never read. Gave it up, dude.
Yeah, like the introduction of the Halo itself, the ring, is pretty good too. Like you go from this cramped, like I mean, the intro of Halo is like graphically it was impressive for the time, but it was still like another sci-fi spaceship environment. We'd seen that 1,000 times.
Oh yeah.
And then you get into the little ship and you get launched to the ring world, and then boom, the level just opens the fuck up.
Yeah.
And you can see the whole. You can like the cool thing about being inside a ring world is you can see the rest of the world like going up in the. I'm making fucking hand gestures here. Like the spire of it coming up and around. It's an incredible visual.
It looks pretty fantastic in the new remastered version as well.
I've been meaning to pick that up.
I went back
it just reminds you that shooters that are the same thing for hours and hours and hours on end, once you've played one, you've played them all.
Yeah.
I found like Halo, I loved all of them, but it's not the most replayable game in my opinion.
That's funny, because I would agree with you, but out of sheer boredom, I played Halo 3's campaign so many times that I just kind of appreciate
that was the best
it.
one, though.
Yeah. Because I remember I spent hours trying to drive a fucking ATV onto, like, what are those huge walking tanks called? Scorpions?
Scorpions.
Yeah, I spent hours trying to drive an ATV onto one of those, get around, blow it up, and drive out the back as it was exploding.
The goodie tank or the baddie tank?
The baddie tank.
The goodies are the Scorpions. The baddies are like the spider tanks.
Something like that.
I love that sequence. Like any game.
Oh man, it's great.
You know where vehicles feel like an actual part of the world rather than just like a larger character model?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where you jump on the spider tank and you can run around inside it and then you blow it up and jump off it and it just feels great.
Yeah, the vehicles in Halo always felt like perfectly natural and, you know, like they were actually in a place that made sense.
Kind of. It did have some goofy physics with like the mongoose in like super bouncy shocks and stuff. But
well, the goofy physics were
the goofy
too,
physics in with the sparrows in Destiny was the best part of the game.
Yeah.
They need to add sparrow racing in that. I might consider picking it up again if they do.
I think they added stunts with the last update.
I don't
So
get
they didn't
Destiny.
add any worthwhile gameplay.
They don't seem to want to add anything in that's actually fun. They don't want to add anything in that people will cheer and laugh about. Except
the way they seem to like say it is like the one thing I heard. I'm probably misquoting it, but was like that wasn't part of our vision for Destiny. Like it's very clearly that this is like their pet project that they want to make exactly how they want.
I mean, I think that shows in every facet of the design.
Yeah.
Like, look at the fucking sound design. Talk about our vision. You can't change the sound balance.
Oh,
yeah, you can't turn it down.
The sound in Destiny drives me crazy, man.
Yeah.
Every game needs an option to balance the music and sound effects because the guns in that game are like 10 times louder than everything else. And you've got this glorious, wonderful, glorious soundtrack and you can't fucking hear it properly.
Over Dinklage.
Well, I can barely hear him.
Fucking narration.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I would have liked a mute Dinklebot option. That's for sure.
On the subject of games opening up from the Halo level there, you should wax lyrical about Oblivion for a bit, Gav. And Gabe.
Really, I didn't think Oblivion had.
I'm the
Oblivion
expert, really. Like, for like.
I love the Fallout. The Fallout. I love the Fallout 3 intro where you've got like Liam Neeson as your dad.
Like I like the Fallout 3 intro, but it's fucking boring to replay. Like Oblivion's intro at least throws you into the action immediately, even if it is, you know, pretty preset what you can do.
Maybe
but
I'm
Fallout
just tired
is
of going
like,
through that sewer so many times.
That
that opening sewer.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You
really like the sewer.
Into the sewer, right? And then
it starts you off in a
come
dungeon.
When you come out of that fucking sewer, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just
But then
genuinely
you also
mind-blowing
save
how
right
big
that was-
before
the
you
world
leave,
is.
so you can just remake a new character from the save rather than going through the intro.
Oblivion
You
was
can.
like my first Western RPG.
You can save just before you leave the thing though and readjust all your skills and stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was
exactly.
Like, it's the
I think
first
that-
like open world
kind of
RPG
sucks you
I
out a
played.
bit though.
The first like proper one, like the only ones I played before I went hand were Pokemon and like Final Fantasy X. So when I got out of there and I was like, make your way to whatever the place was, Chaden Hall, or do whatever you want. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Really? And it was just
That's
like,
an
oh
awesome
my
feeling.
god, it was incredible. Especially as I'd just been able to pick all the skills I wanted. And of course I made some fucking god-awful, useless mismatch because it was the first time I was playing.
And
But-
because
Okay,
the Oblivion
but
leveling system
because
makes
the leveling
no
system
fucking
is-
sense.
Yeah,
the
it's
leveling
terrible.
in Oblivion is god awful.
It's the most unintuitive system I've seen in an RPG.
They tried to
But,
adapt
you know,
what they had in
it's funny
Morrowind,
how, like,
which made
everyone-
sense at the time.
Everyone would come out of that sewer and like go straight for the dungeon right across the river. That
Yeah.
linear dungeon.
Yeah. Well, I turned around and went to the city, and I was like, I can just buy shit. I can join
Yeah.
the arena. I can join the Mages Guild. I can. Oh my god, you know, I was just incredible.
Still remember exactly what I did the first time. I came out, I wandered around a bit and came across a camp with a dude with a book about vampires in his satchel. and killed them and stole all their fruit, and then ran down the river and got like a disease from a mud crab and died.
Nice.
I got like mungo fever from a mud crab.
Mungo fever. Yeah.
And I hated that game. I
can't remember
really
my first death in Oblivion.
The games in general, but I still remember that first playthrough.
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Well, Oblivion,
really
I think, is
the same way.
Yeah.
Oblivion, I think, of all the it does a lot of stuff the best out of all the Elder Scrolls games. I think, like all the it had just such a good balance between the exploration and then it actually had interesting like guilds and stuff, which I think Skyrim was lacking a bit.
Dude, fuck the Skyrim guilds so much. The storylines in them are so fucking bad compared to the ones.
You know what was annoying about the Thieves Guild, man, in Skyrim? Like half the missions, you're with 2 NPCs who just want to charge into battle all the time, and it's like, man, I have wasted my sneaky character.
Yeah, the Thieves Guild is like the Thugs Guild. You're basically just like extorting people. You're not being sneaky.
Pretty much
You're not
is.
stealing a fucking Elder Scroll and sneaking into the palace of the entire world. And that mission is so good.
Were the assassin missions any good?
They were okay.
Yeah,
they focused on the storyline with the Jester too much, I think.
The highlight of Oblivion was that like Agatha Christie fucking quest.
Oh yeah, that was the fucking the
really
murder
nice.
house. Oh,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, Skyrim didn't have that. It just had loads of Draugr dungeons.
Like I kind of felt like in Skyrim they focused on the guilds being like another storyline rather than you doing things someone in an actual guild would do.
Skyrim fell into the
I didn't
trapping
feel like a
of-
mage. I didn't feel like a fighter. I didn't feel like an assassin. I just felt like I just felt like this was another take my MacGuffin and go do this story. It was like a smaller, shittier main quest.
Like I love,
Yeah, I agree.
I adore Skyrim, right? I love it, but I'll freely admit it fell into the trap that most big games fall into nowadays. In it put more content rather than less good content.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's Bethesda to a fucking T, though.
Well, yeah. I
don't
mean,
know, man. Fallout 3 for me had so much good stuff in it. Like so many cool little things that when you're out exploring, you find all these little stories and things. And
I think Fallout 3 had a better world and like better like unique quests, like the quests within Oasis, was it with the guy from Fallout 2, the tree guy?
Harold.
Like that was Harold.
Yeah,
That was like
that
the
was
highlight
cool.
of the game for me. But New Vegas had a more in New Vegas. I kind of felt like doing more quests because they were usually going to be interesting, like the ones with the ghouls and like the one in the casino with the like the cannibals. You know, that was. I just felt like it had more better
like
content.
Eyes Wide Shut or something. That was such
Yeah.
a weird.
It was very weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone else have any intros they want to bring up?
I was going to talk
I've got
about
a
Dark
couple.
Souls. But you can go ahead,
Okay.
Gav, if you want.
Okay, well, we all know that like a good intro, like basically eases you in and teaches you how things are going to go before hitting you full on. So I'm going to go with Battery off Master of Puppets. No, seriously though. Half-Life 2 and Dead Space 2. They were the two I kind of...
Half-Life 2? Yeah, as much as I love Half-Life 2, I think that intro is boring as fuck.
It was I would say it was a little boring. I remember getting.
It's way overlong, dude. It's like literally half an
No,
hour
I love
before
it,
you
man.
start actually
It just
fighting
sets-
and
it-
shooting things.
Yeah, but it sets up the tone and the atmosphere so well, like, do you know?
I was just thinking the other day
Yeah,
how
yeah, I
good
thought it
Half-Life 2
balanced
still
really
looks.
well.
Like, if you look, I was playing Dying Light. I know we keep talking about this in the podcast, but I was looking at like the facial animations, like the I'm talking
Or
honestly.
the lack of.
Yeah, the lack thereof. And then I went back and I played a little Half-Life 2, and I was like, I can clearly see what these guys are saying. And this game is over 10 years old.
Oh yeah,
And I
there's
can clearly
still
see
very few
what
games
Alex-
that have as good facial animation as Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see what Alex is feeling while she says what she's saying. Like, you know
Yeah.
what emotion she's feeling while she talks, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought Half-Life 2. What is it? It's it's the train ride.
The train ride,
and
the thing with Barney,
processing Barney. There's a little bit of a chase, and then
Yeah.
you get the HEV suit, and then you.
It's such a
anyway.
fantastic setup, man. I mean, the whole, like, setting up City 17 as a place, that's what it's doing, like.
Yeah.
And setting
Yeah.
up.
It did feel like a really real place to me.
You know, I agree with Gav, and I
time.
think Gray's wrong. That's how this works.
I do think it was a little bit overlong, and the whole like, I'm not actually that keen on like the first 2 hours of Half-Life 2 until you get in the boat. But I do think it did a really good job of setting things up. It just went on a little too long for me.
I do like how they did the same thing they did in Half-Life. In Half-Life, where you come in through the tram, all of the areas you see are places you eventually go. Perhaps not that exact area, but they are like the level palettes that you eventually visit. So you get to see the canyons, you get to see like the sewer area, you get to see the like industrial stuff, and then the labs, and then the game actually works the same way, kind of backwards.
Yeah.
I never finished the
Half-Life
first,
2 does the same thing.
first one.
You haven't? It's not worth listening because Zen is terrible.
I was gonna say I got to Zen and I was like, "Fuck this." I do not enjoy first-person platforming, and it's just first-person platforming. And apparently the puzzle boss at the end is just god awful. So.
Well, you jump in his brain and crowbar him to death.
Well, I heard like the boss was just like you have to juggle platforming and shooting specific parts at specific times and shit like that. And it's just
you shoot
give
him,
me
his
that.
head opens up and you bounce in his head and throw C4 in his brain. It's
fair enough. Give me that in a platinum game, but not in a first-person shooter.
And Dead Space 2. Amazing opening.
I'm trying to remember what happens in the intro in Dead Space 2. I love the game.
It's straight into the action. You're in the hospital and the guy's talking to you, and then suddenly his fucking face rips apart and explodes, and you're cast into a fucking necromorph invasion with like a sliver of health and just told run. And it was so effective.
You're wearing a
and cool.
fucking straitjacket too, as I recall.
Yeah, exactly. You can't even defend yourself. It was so clever.
That opening animation where he gets popped open is so fucking gross.
Isn't it?
It's like the Thing levels of just
it's horrific.
Nasty. Like he slowly comes apart, and like you see like the effect of the necromorph virus like up close and personal. It's like,
the eyes.
I need to stop being a huge baby and get around to those games sometime.
Best action shooter. Dead Space 2 just straight up.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's amazing.
I would agree.
Perhaps not the atmosphere isn't as good as Dead Space 1's was, but it's far more varied in locale and gameplay. And you were going to say Dark Souls, Gabe, because you're predictable.
Yes, I am very predictable. In the words of Geese Howard. I was playing. I went back because Dark Souls 2 got the content patch on PC the other day of like the few things from the new re-release update, and I was like, I suppose I can give it another go. And I started off.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that new HD or whatever fucking remastered version of it? Is that coming out on PC?
It is, but you have to pay for like the better graphics and stuff, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I'm probably still gonna get it.
I mean, like, it's coming out 2 weeks after Bloodborne, so I know where my money's going.
Yeah.
But I was playing through the tutorial, or well, not the tutorial, because you can just fucking run through it, which is kind of my point. How much I appreciate the Undead Asylum only kind of became apparent after I could just run through the tutorial in Majula, because I remember playing it the first time and it taking me like an hour to get through, and it's like, this is fucking miserable. Like, I hate this game. Why am I playing this? It sucks. Just getting fucking killed and trying to protect myself because I didn't fucking know anything, and that was so frustrating. And when I finally beat the Asylum Demon, I was so happy. And like, I've been playing through Dark Souls 1 again, and I realized I can beat the Asylum in like a minute and a half. Like, literally like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Yeah. I can get from the start to the boss, kill him in 30 seconds, and I'm done. And it's just like, that is how tutorials should be. You should be able to get through them as fast as you are able. And I just remember being so utterly enthralled by everything about Dark Souls in my first playthrough. Because it was just so new and so harsh and so different from anything I'd ever played before.
Yeah. How do you think the intro stacks up to Demon Souls?
I like the Demon Souls intro.
I really like the Demon Souls intro.
But at the same time, I appreciate that you can skip it, but at the same time, I would like the ability to be able to like speed run it like I can with Dark Souls, you know?
The way you're wading through the water and it's just darkness, and then it like mist, and then it opens up and you're in like not a particularly impressive level, but just, you know.
I think Boletaria 1-1 is a much better opening level than brackets than fucking the Forest in Dark Souls 2 or the Undead Burg. I love the Undead Burg, but Boletaria is just like it felt like a place I could really properly explore, whereas the other two just felt a lot more linear, I guess.
I felt like the Undead Burg just was the same thing, but slightly less interesting.
I guess. I mean, I think Undead Burg was supposed to be like you said, like the same thing, but it was meant to be like a lot more worn down and a lot smaller in scope, I guess.
Like, Boletaria had a whole bunch of different things going on. Like, it had like a dungeon area. It had
the dragons.
The dragons, obviously, which were repeated in Dark Souls. It had the bit where you run down the there's like a parapet with a boulder that comes after you and can destroy all the enemies and stuff.
Yeah, and then you go up on the battlements, and there's an optional like mini boss you can go and fight, and it's Voluntary is a fantastic level.
And you're opening like I think Demon Souls had a lot more, because it was a little bit more linear, had a lot more shortcuts you could just unlock.
Yeah.
I guess they were less meaningful than Dark Souls, because Dark Souls, obviously, travel was a big part of the early part of the game, whereas in Demon Souls, it's just not.
Yeah, because you're going to levels.
Because you're going to levels.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dark Souls intro, very impressive. That cliff you come out to when you finish the tutorial area.
Yeah, that looks so good.
And it's just this
I remember reading the
precarious cliff with like a fucking giant crow at the end.
Yeah,
I remember reading the
just have to
message
keep
after
going.
I got out that was like, "Well done, now proceed ahead." I was like, "All right, here we go, we're doing it."
I got this shit.
Yeah.
And they also have that intro video, which I think sets up the lore in like a really cool way and looks really nice.
Hey
The
guys,
one
do you
thing
know
I
what
didn't like
games
about
all
them-
had fucking... sorry, no, I'm just changing the topic there. You finish first.
The one thing about Dark Souls that I didn't particularly like is the way you're released from your cell just felt very perfunctory.
Yeah, I don't really
like-
remember like why
There's
that happened.
a dude walks past and drops you a key, and then I think that's the same guy who gets crushed by a boulder.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Oscar. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no.
and-
If you look in the room where you find Oscar, you can see like he came in through the roof. So it's theorized that he went to fight the Asylum Demon, and the Asylum Demon fucking launched him into the atmosphere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. And I didn't know who he was or why he would do that, and that just felt kind of like. Then again, maybe that fits into the Dark Souls universe quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
He
knowing
was
who
trying
someone
to
is and
focus
why
on
they're
something
doing
and then
stuff.
died.
That's kind of par for the course in Dark Souls, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it ties in with what he does. Like he also gives you his flask when he's dying.
Yeah.
He's just like, you know what? I'm a helpful guy. It's a hard world out there.
Mm.
So
I'm dying. Please take the thing that heals all undead.
Yeah, so with that, if he's got one of those, then he's undead, right? Why doesn't he just respawn like me?
He does. You can go back to the asylum and you can kill him because he goes.
Oh,
back.
yeah,
Yeah, but
you
he's
do.
he's mental now. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
wish.
true.
I know this sounds silly from Dark Souls, which is all about mystery and being obscure. But I do wish some of this shit was explained a little bit better.
Well, I think I remember reading or watching a video, like one of the fucking myriad Dark Souls videos, that he was originally supposed to be like a second Solaire or like fill Solaire's role, and that he would accompany you throughout the game, and that if you defeated Gwyn, that he would. Oops, sorry, spoilers. If you the last boss, then he would like come in and like challenge you because he was supposed to be the chosen one or something, which would have been a bit Revenge
That
of
would
the
have been
Sith.
so interesting. Though
Yeah.
it also would have made the beginning of the game less lonely.
Yeah, and I think having a constant companion would kind of rob Dark Souls of the feeling that everyone is temporary, that everyone just comes into your life and leaves, like all the merchants do. The only real companion to have is Solaire, and you see him for like a 20th of the game max.
I will add that
Great.
the way it deals with how companions are kept alive actually annoys the piss out of me.
From a completionist
trying-
perspective, it's infuriating, especially
Yeah.
fucking Siegmeyer. Like I have never finished that quest, and I probably never will.
Because it
the amount of
works
things
on
I have to do.
mechanics that just aren't apparent, like, at all. Like, even if you know what to do, you have to, like, kill so many fucking bugs so he can kill a few of them, so he doesn't kill
Yeah,
himself.
yeah.
That drives me nuts. And, like, with Solaire, you have to discover a hidden fucking path before a certain point in the game. Go down, kill a certain number of arbitrary enemies. Otherwise, you get his
Great.
brain
There's a great YouTube channel that just
explains
he's
all
called
the
Epic
lore.
Name.
I've seen it.
Epic Name Bro, yeah, and he explains all the lore and stuff while
Go-
he's doing
if you have
playthroughs.
any interest in Dark Souls and you don't know who Epic Name Bro is, you don't exist. But
Yeah.
on the off chance that you do exist, go watch Epic Name Bro because he's the
Yeah,
best.
he's fantastic.
isn't there another YouTube video? I hadn't
He
heard
actually
of
helped.
Epic Name Bro.
He helps write the guides as well. You know,
Yeah,
he knows
he's doing
his
the
shit.
Bloodborne
Like,
one as well. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so you were going to move on to a
So-
different intro, Gav?
yeah. The God of War series, they all had fucking amazing intros. Like the first game, like you're literally, it teaches you how to play the game by setting you up against a giant goddamn Hydra attacking your ship. And
Yeah.
in the second one, the first scene is the Colossus of Rhodes, and in the third one, the first scene is you decimating fucking Poseidon while running up the back of a Titan. It's just so awesome.
Revengeance is something similar to that, where being a platinum game and like the previous boss you fought in the previous game you controlled as Raiden was Metal Gear Ray, and of course the first thing they throw at you is a supercharged Metal Gear Ray as the tutorial boss. You know,
that part where the dynamic music, I think, was such a huge part of that game.
Yeah. No,
And
when
they
you
first
fucking
introduced that.
when it kicks in and you hear the fucking screaming rules of nature while you're punching Metal Gear into the sky and you jump up and cut it in half.
Yeah, this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
we should call this the Dying Alone podcast / Gabe's Metal Gear podcast.
Gabe creams
Gabe is
himself
a-
about
is a
Metal
big
Gear.
fan.
I am.
I will
That's-
give you
that's
that.
me, Gabe, concubine
the
and
music
Metal
in
Gear
that
fan.
game. The music in that game was wicked. It was really, really good.
That was
Yeah, it was.
fantastic.
It's just a shame you didn't beat it because the music gets better as it goes along. Because like the last two boss fights,
It's not a shame I didn't beat it.
It is, dude. It's such a good game. The last boss fight is like a rite of passage, man.
it is.
No,
It is
see, I watched the last boss after you talked about it on YouTube. I watched it and it was funny.
it's so good.
It's if you were a Metal Gear fan and you have a sense of humor, it was amazing. Because he was like, he just summed up
I think Metal
everything
Gear
that was
fans
wrong
all
with Metal
have
Gear
a sense
Solid
of
4.
humor.
He was
I
just
think
like he
Metal
was
Gear
every
fans all have
villain.
a sense of humor, Greg.
He was every villain crammed into fucking Kenshiro's body with a fucking crazy senator head on him. Fucking best villain.
Where like Raiden's like, how the fuck does any of this work? And he's like,
Yeah.
nanomachines.
I just loved it when this like he fucking bust open the Metal Gear and all it started feeding him nanomachines and Ryan was just like, you have got to be kidding me.
And that's when it starts to get really goofy too.
Yeah. And he fucking balls him up and kicks him and says, "Don't fuck with this."
And then there's like
senator."
a
And
crowd
cheering.
cheer. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Play this fucking game, guys. It's really good.
Play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance if you're not a fucking casual like Gav is.
On another intro, Kingdom Hearts or Kingdom Hearts 2.
Never
Didn't
played
play
them.
him.
Didn't play.
You know those CGI intros they have that are just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
the
like
Final Fantasy style ones.
yeah.
They are Final Fantasy style intros taken to like the next level, where it's like these thumping techno tracks with like quite a ethereal, kind of female-led vocals and really trippy visuals of characters like falling through water, which turns into the sky, and like it's very strange, but I think it just captures the nature of the games, which are quite trippy.
Wait, now
in and of
Kingdom Hearts,
themselves.
is that the one where they have like Disney characters?
Disney characters. Yeah.
Yes.
What is it? Okay, what can someone explain to me how this works? What is that story and how does it work?
There
I don't
are
know.
multiple worlds, like.
Okay. And is it a Disney game? Did they make
No,
it, or
it's
did they
developed
just
by Square
license the
Enix,
characters?
with licensed
Okay.
Disney stuff, and it mixes like the various Final Fantasy characters and I think various Square characters with Disney worlds. So there's like different worlds with different aesthetic designs and stuff. So you go to like
But do
Aladdin
they
world.
interact?
You do, and Mickey Mouse is like king of the universe. It's a very strange game, dude.
Oh, speaking of lots of different worlds and cool intros, Planescape Torment. When you wake up on a slab and you've no idea who you are. That's a pretty
Yeah,
cool intro.
I really want to get
That
around
is-
to that.
Fantastic, actually. Now you mention it, it's really slow and full of fucking dialogue. But and then you come across like zombies, and the first zombie you got has like literally the first zombie you talk to has more dialogue than most of the quest descriptions in
in most
Oblivion
games,
and
yeah.
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 The intro on the subject of Final Fantasy stuff, the FF10, was like absolutely incredible to me as a young kid because it just had so much detail put into it. Not even just the FMV stuff, because like the opening FMV where they're playing Blitzball and the rock song was playing, and that was just
One thing
it
I
was
really
just
liked about that is it had like
astonishingly pretty.
it had a metal track instead of the usual kind of J-poppy or orchestral shit.
Yeah.
It had this really like not super heavy, but by Final Fantasy standards, that's like Meshuggah type shit.
Yeah, the song kind of sounds like Rammstein. I thought it was by Rammstein for a really long time, but and then you're just like you're finding these weird monsters in this giant fucking techno city, and then this black blob of whatever the fuck just absorbs you and sends you into the future, past,
Yeah.
whatever. Just
Spoilers.
that game is fucking stunning. looking.
It's like just as you get a handle of what's going on in the intro, like of the future world, it's like, well, fuck you, we're sending you somewhere else.
Yeah. And like, yeah, just that. I adore that game. I really need to get around to playing some other Final Fantasies, but it's just it's amazing. Like the FMVs and stuff in that game are
10 is totally
so
is actually my favorite.
yeah, it's mine because it's the only one I've played. But playing it this year on the Vita last year rather, after not playing it for maybe 10 years, it was the one game from my childhood I hadn't touched since I played it the first time. It was just a really wonderful.
It's aged really well. Like
it has,
the turn-based combat system. I still think is one of the best implementations of a turn-based combat system.
Yeah. If you ignore like the not so great lip syncing and the few obvious scenes that are just abysmal, like
the writing, is a little bit
yeah, and the entire protagonist. I mean, he's pretty goddamn annoying. Let's face it.
He's by far not the worst Final Fantasy protagonist though. Squall is way worse.
That's
Cloud is
awful.
awful.
Infinitely more irritating.
That's not saying much.
Yeah,
Cloud is a giant pile of shit too.
Cloud is fucking awful.
Infuriating.
Yeah. Anyway,
right, Corey, you haven't made a suggestion yet. You said Halo.
Halo, yeah.
I also Portal. That's a pretty obvious one.
Portal doesn't really
well
have
done.
an intro. It just kind of happens.
Like,
well, yeah,
a lot of
that's
people
the thing.
would
It's
say
just, it gets you
Portal
in
2, which has a much more like elaborate intro. I think the intro to Portal is like perfect. It's you locked in a glass box.
Well, if you're talking about like the very first room, yeah, that was brilliant because
Yeah.
it just totally set the scene immediately.
Like,
yeah, and
with
you
nothing
get like
but a toilet
the
and
flavor.
a weird alarm clock playing goofy music. It just sums up the game perfectly.
And then it just gets you right into puzzles. It's just it's like a slow build and just like it's just slow build through the entire game. And I don't know, dude. If you consider that entire game an intro,
there's something wrong with the AI. Like it gets slowly but surely more and more weird until you realize there's something quite terribly wrong. And the way you can see the office windows and some of them are like cracked or broken, but you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum, another brilliant intro. When you're like escorting the Joker through the asylum and he's like taunting you and stuff, and then how they reuse parts of that intro later in that clever sequence.
I think my biggest gaming sin is that I have never even as much as touched an Arkham game.
Oh yeah,
dude.
I have them sitting in my Steam library, and I'm just.
I mean, you're into stealth games, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm into stealth games, and I'm into like Metroidvanias. So
arguably,
I don't know why the fuck I haven't played them.
Stealth game from last gen.
Yeah, I think you'll really, really enjoy them. But just make sure you play them in the correct order because...
And don't play Origins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my little brother was berating me for not playing them.
Origins is alright. It's not that bad. There were some good levels in it, like the one where you play as Joker.
It's the same thing, but worse. Like, no...
I thought it was like a 6 or 7. I didn't think it was that bad.
A 5 for me. Like,
really?
You got Arkham City as a template, and Arkham City, one of the best games of last gen. And it's like, we're just going to make the same thing, but we're going to reuse all the assets, but we're going to make it infinitely worse. Like
that's just what I heard.
I don't know. I didn't like Arkham City.
Play Asylum.
I thought Asylums were peaked.
It depends on if you prefer open world stuff or Metroidvania.
Yeah,
I'm fine with either. I appreciate like
the games are as good as each other, but it depends on.
I agree. Yeah,
I appreciate a really well planned small open world as opposed to like a Skyrim style one. But yeah. I mean, my favorite kind of Metroidvanias would be like Cave Story, where it's basically linear, but you know there is some exploration to be done.
The intro of Cave
Story.
Well,
Asylum is quite. Asylum is a small world, but it's really intricate, and the way it unlocks itself into other areas is really, really clever. Yeah. It's kind of Dark Souls-ish in that respect.
I don't feel like Dark Souls is really an open world game. It feels like a corridor that you can go back and forth in.
Yeah, and that's why I would compare Arkham Asylum to
Dark Souls comparisons. You know how people go, it's like Dark Souls in that regard. Like Zelda, it's a lot like Dark Souls, actually.
Dark Souls is the cool new thing to name check.
I came across the weirdest fucking Dark Souls reference the other day. I was watching a video on Dai Katana, or Dai Katana, however that's fucking pronounced, because I've been replaying it and I wanted to see if there's any way to make it less awful.
Has John Romero made you his bitch?
He has made me his bitch, or at least his fucking invisible robot frogs that shoot you in the kneecaps have. And there's a guy like, I think people don't like this game because they don't appreciate hard games, and really it was kind of the Dark Souls of its time.
Yeah.
Truly, the Dark Souls of video games.
I'm just like, there's a lot of ways to describe Daikatana. Dark Souls of its time is probably not the one I would use.
Is that supposed to be in a sense that it wasn't appreciated? Because
Yeah,
like Dark
'cause it was
Souls
too
is
hard.
the most appreciated game of last gen now. Everybody loves it.
Oh
Yeah.
no, the idea is that before Dark Souls, no one liked hard games, and people didn't.
I don't
like,
necessarily think that's true.
It's not true at all, and people didn't like Daikatana because, I mean, okay, to put it into perspective, the first level is like bright green. It's full of mosquitoes, like literal mosquito-sized robots that could do massive damage, and you have to shoot with a gun that isn't hit scan.
Oh god.
And robot frogs that are like literally like 2 inches high. Again, you have to hit with your non-hit scan weapon, and it's just
Yeah.
frustrating as fuck to shoot them. And it's just like for an opening level of anything, it's absolutely fucking abysmal. And people are like, oh, you know, it's just hard, and you don't like it because it's hard. It's like, no, I don't like it because it's shit.
I think what they're trying to say is get good.
Shit, he's got you there, dude. You should have just been
Work on
better.
your
You should have
build.
just hit all
Work on
the
your-
enemies.
Yeah.
Stop leveling decks.
It's actually not as bad as people made it out to be. I think disappointment kind of drove it. It was very much, I think it was the Destiny of its time, to be honest. Rather than the Duke Nukem Forever. But yeah, still a bad game.
Alien Isolation, another great one. Really, really cool intro.
You know, it was in that you woke up and you got to relive the beginning of Alien. I didn't like the way it cut to third person like cutscenes for stuff.
I haven't played it, but I watched a friend of mine stream like the first 3 hours or so, and I appreciate how it really like put across stuff like steadily getting more and more uncomfortable until shit just hits the fan really bad.
Well, it takes hours for that fucking alien to turn up.
Oh, I know, yeah. But
Which
yeah.
is pretty cool because when it does show up, it's absolutely fucking pants-shittingly terrifying.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I remember playing through it. I'm like, is there an alien in this fucking alien game? And then when it does turn up, it's like, oh, actually, you know, I think I liked it without the alien.
Just checking bins for the
yeah,
alien.
because I found the period of time waiting for it was way scarier than when it actually starts attacking you and insta-killing you. That, to me, then it just became fucking
dude.
frustration fest.
It's so good. It's so much better than the other games that have done that insta kill shit because your ability to hide is far more nuanced and interesting.
Yeah, but I hid an event, and it just somehow knew I was in the vent and reached in and fucking killed me, and I was like, nope, I'm done with this game.
Yeah.
It checks, it looks around for things, and it can sense you when you're close.
Yeah, but I felt there's such an element of random luck to that game, and is it going to turn around and see me or isn't it? And then you
There
get
is,
unlucky
but I
and
think
it does, and I'm like,
that's
nah.
important. I know me and
not
Ian were
enough for
hiding in a fucking closet. That's a free one if you want to make jokes about it. And I'm like, Ian's like, we were taking turns like on and off the controller because we're both pussies and we're afraid of scary games.
Wow.
And he hides in this closet, and I'm like, dude, he's wise to your bullshit. And the alien comes and looks through like the eye slots, and then it like wanders off, and he's like, nah, fucking, I told you, we're fine. And then it turns around and like rips the door off, and we're both like, yeah.
Fooled you.
And that was like pure random chance. It wasn't like something I programmed. It was just like it obviously has like a percentage chance to check certain hiding spots.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't the case, it just wouldn't have happened. And it was just a great moment. And sometimes you have to die in horror games for it to be scary, I think.
But I think sometimes when you die too many times, it stops being scary and starts being annoying.
Once you died a few times, all the horror of it's gone.
Dara O'Brien made a joke about that. About Metal Gear Solid like that, you know, like every time you die,
Here we go.
Fucking Otacon screams Snake, but I die so much. You should probably just say, Snake, come on. I was more referencing Dara O'Brien than Metal Gear for once. However, the thing about Metal Gear,
So another intro that's pretty legit. Donkey Kong Country.
yes.
It just starts. It shoots you out of your apartment. You check a little doorway. You go in there. You see someone stole your bananas. You just fucking leave and get shit started. Start killing creatures in the jungle, stealing their bananas.
Is
The
this
Donkey Kong Country games are like my favorite platformers. Like 1 and 2 especially. I think they're like the pinnacle of 2D platforming for me because they're hard as fuck and they just work so well.
I
they
found
feel
them
so right.
kind of floaty, to be honest.
They are
I replayed
floaty,
them
but that's
quite
kind of
recently.
like that's kind of why it works for me because like the jumps are really precise. So you kind of have a tiny bit of leeway to make them with the floatiness, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to like
The,
you really need to kind of like respect the control scheme, I guess, if you want to get results out of it, which I kind of appreciate. But
The Super Nintendo one to me felt actually easier than the Mario games. I don't know if I've got a bad memory on that one, but
I
I
don't
think
know.
Mario
remember
games
things that-
had like a more gentle curve, whereas Donkey Kong was just like the first world is easy,
Donkey
and then it
Kong's
just throws you in.
brick wall.
Yeah,
It's like
Yeah,
original Rayman, like hard, where it's
Oh,
you get two
Rayman.
levels of like, okay, this is the game, this is how you jump, and that's like, fuck you.
yeah. One I wanted to bring up was just for how like it sets everything up really subtly, but it does it like entirely is Silent Hill 2,
yeah.
where it just like you. Okay,
Yeah,
you start
Greg,
off.
this is
My
again
one
Greg, where
weakness.
your opinion is just not allowed on this game
You just
at all.
I know.
you start off
The
and you're just like
sounds.
Have you ever finished it?
No,
How far did you get?
not very far at all.
Oh man,
Dude,
don't
go
like it.
back and fucking play
I've
Silent
got.
Hill 2.
To be honest, I do have the HD version, which I've heard is fucking garbage.
Oh, dude, that's not
No,
even
no,
that's
no,
not
no,
even
no.
a thing. That's
Go
fuck
back
the
and
HD
get
version.
your PS2, man, and play it.
You start off. It's just like you don't know anything, and you walk out, and the plot is just like you just presented with it. Like my wife is dead. My wife has been dead forever, but maybe she's here, and that's it. That's just what you have to work off, and it has like the fucking fantastic music and the look over the town and everything. It's just
That is the
I
most
mean, I-
beautifully detailed urinal I've ever seen.
yeah. I didn't know anything about the game when I was coming in. It was the first Silent Hill game I played, and I was just like, I have got to find out what happens. I was just hooked for the first second.
Assassin's Creed 2, that was another good intro. That bit
It's
where you
a
climb
me,
up the
Mario!
church with your brother.
Actually, Assassin's Creed 2 is one of the genuine like, here's your family, they're going to get murdered. Plot setups that really works.
Yeah.
You're given enough time to really like and bond with these people before they're taken.
And
Yeah.
you could see it coming, but I don't think that really mattered because, well, I don't know, I saw it coming anyway.
Oh yeah,
It was
it's
pretty
not coming
obvious.
a
If they
fucking mile
introduce
away.
like a vulnerable child character, they're going to die in the next half hour easily.
Or a noble father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that intro scene, when they climb up the church, they have the race, and then it pans out over the city, and the Assassin's Creed titles come up. As Jesper Kid, man, his music is it's incredible. Like, and that scene just still gives me goosebumps every time I see it. It's so good.
It was very good.
You
It was
know
a
what's
great
really
game.
weird? You know what's really weird about Unity? They don't have any music playing while you're exploring the city. I think it takes a lot away from it actually, because that's always
Maybe
been
they
one of the
didn't have
strongest
time to write
parts. Maybe, yeah.
One thing I liked a lot about Far Cry 4 was like the dynamic music, or not the dynamic music, just like the chilled out music when you were exploring, because
Yeah, it's awesome.
it
Isn't
wasn't something I'd go and listen to, but it was
Yeah.
like it really fit the scene perfectly. It felt
Yeah.
like Elder Scrolls music, but tuned for like Nepal or whatever the fuck you were supposed to be.
Yeah, tuned for like a party with a bunch of hippies at like fucking 4 a.m. when they're all coming down.
Well, I don't mean the music in the car. I mean the music like that's played atmospherically when you just like when you're in a village or something. But
Yeah,
yeah, the music
yeah.
in the car was great as well. Kind
Did
of
any of
moved
you
to that.
play
after a year
Soul
or two.
Blade on the PS1?
Do you mean Soul
No.
Calibur?
No, I mean Soul Blade, sir, which was the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. I started with Soul Calibur too.
And or Soul Edge if you live in the UK. Possibly the greatest FMV intro of all time, in my opinion. Which I'm going to put in here. Ding. The
What,
plan
your
is I'm
opinion?
actually going to...
This is a video, isn't it?
The actual video, yeah. The idea is I'm going to like add in a lot of the intros to run while we're talking about them.
Yeah, that sounds
So
good.
keep naming them so he has to go and play all these fucking games. More.
Let me think on top of that. Final Fantasy VII, like fantastic intro.
Yeah, it's really
Absolutely hideous by even the standards of a year later. But
Yeah.
just the way it pans down, like you start.
I
with this
love,
beautiful shot
like-
of the city and it pans down to the train.
Umatsu is just a man, but I fucking love the bombing mission opening theme. Like, just the music is what's keeping me going through that game because I haven't actually played it. And
Yeah, it's.
I'm
great.
playing through it right now. It's just it's fantastic.
I was when I played Final Fantasy VII for the first time last year. I was quite surprised at how there was this really long segment in the game with no checkpoints or save points, in which if I hadn't have been careful with my health potions, which I had been, but I would imagine a lot of players weren't, and could have actually saved themselves into an unwinnable game at that point. And it was where you first kind of get out and go and sabotage that office building, you know, when you first get out on the road.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, there's no save point been here for like nearly a whole hour.
There was some
if you had...
very weird, in the Shinra building, there were some very weird stretches of gameplay with no saves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you had started that segment with, say, only 5 health potions, you would have been screwed. Would have been saved into an unpassable game, pretty much.
You would have had a cure materia at least, wouldn't you?
A who-wah-wah?
You would have had like a healer or something, at least.
You have Eris at the time, so you can always just grind to get her limit up with Healing Wind, I think. Christ, I've played this game in years and I still remember that.
Still.
I don't think you can ever get stuck.
Yeah.
But you can put yourself in
You can't get like Resident Evil stuck, but yeah, you can get stuck in an unfun situation, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me think. I was never much of a SNES. I mean, I had a Genesis, but it was back when I was really, really young. And I don't think a lot of the early game intros are really that worth talking about.
No,
Link to the Past.
364 bit era. I don't really think that there were anything in particular, but
Link to the Past. Yeah, that was pretty. It kind of just gets you into things, like.
Yeah. Plus, it was a similar feeling we talked about earlier with Oblivion, where you come out into this open world and you're like, "Holy fuck! I can go wherever I want in this." That's amazing. To a much smaller scale, obviously, but at the time it was the biggest one.
I really loved the intro of Wario Land 3 on the Game Boy Color. That's it. Here we go, the esoteric shit. But just like, it just felt like, you know, it's just like, oh, you go into this weird world and you're just like, the setup is just like, help me out. You can keep whatever treasure you want. And you're just like, yeah, okay. I'm an opportunistic bastard, but whatever. I'll just go with it.
What are some of the worst intros?
Just before we go on to the worst, I want to mention the first level of COD 4, like the one of the tanker.
I was totally going to bring that up.
Oh, that was so good.
Dude, I felt like it was one of the few times that games have genuinely got my heart like fucking pounding in my chest when you were like, you know, at the end when you're running through it and the ship's like collapsing and everything. I was just like, holy shit.
Amazing.
You know?
Yeah.
Really interesting from a narrative perspective too. Like you go from all these World War II games, which are morally black and white, to the first mission of COD 4, and I think the first thing you do is you kill a person who's asleep.
Yeah.
Or you watch as a person kills a person who's asleep. And I was fuck me, this is like pretty grim, you know?
Yeah.
And that sets the tone for the rest of the game perfectly. This morally ambiguous, like miasma of violence and like patriotism and terrorism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Modern Warfare 2 as well had some fucking brilliant heart-pounding moments.
I never actually played the campaign of that one.
Because to me, Modern Warfare 2 took it to its logical extreme. And I think they may have peaked too early with that because the rest of the games didn't really have the same effect then after that. But
I thought Modern Warfare 2 was too cartoonish. What worked about COD 4 was that it was compared to the previous games, it was like violent in a very new and very grey way.
COD 4 just like kept hitting peaks, like the fucking the first mission, the nuke, the all gillied up. You know, they're all like I think equally as good. as each other.
All gillied up. That mission was so amazing.
It was.
Yeah.
There's a bit in COD 4 where you legit watch as a man's tortured to death.
Yeah. It's pretty shocking, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really anymore.
I don't remember that. Which was
the terrorist guy, the Iraqi guy.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. Hey, weren't we talking about this the other night, Gray, while we were playing Dying Light? That Call of Duty has some seriously grim scenes in it. Like,
yeah, it's kind of became a staple, which I think makes it a bit less effective. Like every game has to have the scene where the character you're playing dies.
The one in Black Ops 2 really got me. I won't say who, but there's a character, quite a central character who gets tortured until they're dead, and it's a really fucking grim scene, and it's just really disturbing.
One of the grimmest scenes I think in games for me is in the original The Darkness, when you're forced to watch as your girlfriend just gets
Christ. Yeah.
Oh, just absolute brilliance.
Holy shit. I was just like, oh my fucking god, I can't believe they did that.
And they set it up so well with the scene before where you just watch the movie with her.
Where you watch To Kill a Mockingbird in its entirety with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, God, that game is one of the few games that has genuinely like made me feel bad for a week after I finished it. I was just so sad.
That game was like a flawed masterpiece, really,
It
wasn't it?
was
big
heavily
time.
flawed, but so brilliant. I liked how it used its own flaws. Like the World War II hell segments were fucking terrible.
They were really
But
bad.
they went on just long enough, and they got progressively darker and grimmer and more horrible until eventually, when you come out of them, it's like a breath of fresh. You literally come out of them in like a piss-stained sewer, and you've never been more glad to see like a piss-stained subway.
Yeah. I remember being like, oh, thank God I'm out of the World War II segment. Oh, my aunt's being murdered.
Yeah. The second one was good, but I felt it didn't quite capture the same tone.
The second
it
one
definitely had some great moments, though.
It didn't feel like a sequel to the game. It felt like an adaptation of the really shitty comics, and the comics are fucking terrible.
I think one that is simultaneously the worst and the best is Brutal Legend, because it was such an amazing intro, and it made you love everything about it. Well, it made me love everything about it, and the whole world it built and everything.
Yeah.
And this
And
fun
then
little
them
combat
RTS
system.
sections.
And then it turns into a fucking RTS. So basically, the entire intro is lying to you.
Yeah.
That hurts.
If it had just been like a straight up God of War ripoff, it would have been.
Yeah.
The
It would
best
have
game
worked so
ever
much
made.
better. I don't know what they were thinking. Like what they had didn't work.
I think it's just Tim
was just
Schafer not having any
overambitious,
self control.
wasn't it? Yeah, it
I
was
love Tim
overambitious.
Schafer, but he really doesn't.
Has there
mean,
ever
he's trying to
been
do
like
something
a
new.
cooler world? Like it was just such fun to drive around.
If you're
in
a
your
heavy metal
hot
nerd
rod
like
and-
me and you are, then it's like the coolest thing ever. But I think it was kind of lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
I,
Fuck those
honestly,
people.
I don't think so. I think it had that like Jack Black, we like rock and roll, which is like the we love science of music.
And to be fair, a lot of
Appeal.
the metal in it it wasn't exactly extreme
accessible.
metal. It was
Well, there was some extreme stuff. Like there was that. Well, actually, then I think about it, most of the black metal was just like Cradle of Filth tier.
I think the hardest thing in there was Cradle of Filth. And, like,
which is like Cradle of Filth
is
is like black metal for you know,
Babby's first black metal band.
kindergarten black metal.
Yeah.
What else had a word
Speaking
bad?
of great intros, sorry to go back to positive again. The Last of Us.
Sorry to go back to positive.
Wow, it's grey going back to the positives.
Last of Us
one
is
of the books.
crazy good though.
Like the last, I mean, the actual, I
Yeah.
think the actual opening hours of The Last of Us are overall not the best part of the game. They're a bit like slow and boring. But
There's
that
a little
actual
bit too much walk
intro
faster, Joel. Yeah.
is fucking amazing.
Yeah, how they set up the world and just like pull your heartstrings.
There's a moment in that intro where the little you're playing as the little girl still, and she just looks out the window, and you see this explosion in the distance. I thought that was such a really effective moment.
And the sound, like the sound was muffled in the car with the rain and shit.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
really,
bad
really well done.
intros.
I think I made a joke
Witcher-
when you brought
Witcher
this
2.
up. Final Fantasy 13, 20 hours
First
of intro.
20 hours.
Yeah.
Witcher 2 was a bad intro. It was just a complete info dump.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't do that.
Both mechanics and lore just dumped on you from every direction.
Yeah.
And which is a pity, because I'd imagine it turned a lot of players off a game that in the end turned out to be
It did turn
great.
me off. I actually finished the tutorial and got to the first area, and I was just, I really don't feel like playing this anymore. This is giving me a headache.
The impassable dragon boss didn't actually do a lot to make me enjoy that game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that seemed
think,
to work on. Like,
Oh, Dragon Age Origins. I think that game has like it has
Oh,
6 intros that are all
Jesus,
bad.
Yeah.
depends who you play
Yeah.
as.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. They're all
You
bad.
still have to go into the fucking fade no matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The human intro is actually really interesting. It's like they siege a castle and shit.
Yeah. I thought the elf intro was like the most tolerable one, and even that just fucking. That is what puts me off getting into the game, because by the time the intro is finished, I'm already sick of it.
Yeah. Oh, the Ostergar bit, which went on forever,
Yeah,
and it should be skippable. Like when you go to play the second time, it should be skippable.
it should be skippable. I'm just gonna go ahead and say the worst intro is anything without a skippable tutorial. Unless the tutorial can be like done much quicker in itself, then you can fuck off.
Yeah,
I think
skippable
the
videos,
worst
skippable
intros
tutorial.
are the ones that just don't.
And
The worst intros are the ones that just dump all the info on you and don't give you time to learn the mechanics. You know who's really not great with tutorials actually is Rockstar, because I remember in Red Dead Redemption there was that dueling thing, and the tutorial text for it was a black box that popped up on the side of the screen as you were trying to play the duel. So you're trying to read that and do it, and then you never see the tutorial again. So for that whole game, I had no idea how to do the gun duels.
Well, the problem with Rockstar is the entire game is a fucking tutorial.
Yeah, that's what they do. They do that black box pop up for everything. It's just like here is information. You have absorbed this information.
And the game's like 20 hours long, and for the first 15, you will still be getting tutorial pop-ups.
Yeah.
They don't. They never just sit you down for 5 minutes and go, "Here are the main mechanics."
In fairness, I think that's okay in a game where they consistently drip feed you mechanics, but it's still not, like the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Games are getting a lot better nowadays, though, aren't they, at their tutorials? And
I think Revengeance has a really good tutorial.
It's such an art form that
it doesn't, other than the
Blood
parry
Dragon.
explain thing.
Blood Dragon.
Oh god, fuck Blood Dragon. That wasn't funny.
That intro was amazing.
It was, the long tall Sally bit was great, but the bit with like the actual like unskippable dialogue boxes is like, yeah, the main character's getting frustrated. Isn't it so funny? No, it's fucking frustrating. He's right.
Oh no, I thought it was funny. I really thought it was well done.
Yeah, Revengeance tutorial was really nice in that it was a callback to the VR missions from previous Metal Gear games. And we're on Metal Gear again. Jesus, Gabe.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to have to put some kind of moratorium on the Metal Gear.
My bad. Moratorium on Metal Gear.
You know what intros I like are like the walking tour ones where you get to where you're still playing the game, but you're like getting a little tour of the universe as being like, the intro to Human Revolution, where you start off in like Adam's girlfriend's office and they walk through the building, and there's kind of exposition.
Slowly. I was about to say
but
I actually kind of hate that intro, but I like the one. I like that kind of intro.
Really?
I just didn't like that one's unskippable.
Let me explore and walk around at my own pace. Don't take control of my character and move me forward while I look around. It just drives me nuts.
Oh no, I think that can be bad for like immersion, because if it's going too slow and like I can move, like I will jump around, I will run around, I will like act like a child because it's
that's
not
your
moving
fault.
at the correct pace.
You know what I mean? Like,
I love it when like
because
like a military colonel or a super important scientist is trying to have an important conversation with you, and you're just running and headbutting the coughing machine. Yeah.
Like, I don't think that detracted from Half-Life 2 too much. Like, people are talking to me and I'm like throwing fucking coffee cups around.
Yeah, I'm fucking wrecking their office.
Well, doesn't Eli? There's one clever scene where Eli does react to everything you do.
I don't remember that one.
It's like when it's
on that note in Deus Ex, where if you go in the women's bathroom in the intro, not the intro, like the second intro after the first level, your boss like calls you out on it when you go to see him.
Like, I'm not going to mention Metal Gear. I'm not going to do it. I like that in Mass Effect 2 as well, when Edie calls you out for going into the women's bathroom. Like, that is the women's bathroom, Commander. Well, I suppose it worked.
That happened in Deus Ex as well.
Yeah.
The original one.
Yeah.
Another tutorial or like beginning that's like both good and bad is like all the Pokemon games. Because like they get started kind of quickly, but it like the text scroll is so slow in all of them that like making a new file, which like you don't do that often. In all honesty, you don't like you keep your Pokemon because you only have one save.
Yeah.
But it's like
I think Gen 2 had like the most dynamic one in that you go out and it's the same thing. You go out on an errand as like the first time, but like you actually have a reason to take a Pokemon this time, or there's a reason for the rival to take a Pokemon, and there's a reason behind like naming the rival and stuff. But I don't know. I love Gen 2.
It's a problem with Nintendo games in general. I kind of wish they would have like an I am an adult mode, where like they can, like it's the problem with Nintendo games in that they are aimed primarily at children. Like really that's not a diss. Like they are really popular with like the older crowd and the nostalgia crowd. but mechanically and in terms of how they're presented, they're often aimed directly at children, which means tons of tutorials. You've been walked through everything. And sometimes I just want to be left alone, and like I can't, like I really like these games, but I can't be bothered to sit through like an hour of tutorials to get.
They've gotten worse about them because the Mario 64 tutorial is barely a tutorial. It just like throws you in there, and you read a sign. It's just like, here's how you jump, here's how you punch, and that's it for like the rest of the game. You know, it just gives you the basic stuff, and you figure it out yourself because you have an open world to like do it in, which I really like. So.
Oh, guys.
Galaxy isn't bad in that respect, but there's more intro to Galaxy than I would like.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot more.
Journey.
Journey?
I mean, I think Journey is pretty much the second perfect game after Tetris, but that intro, I really liked it as well because it's so mysterious and it doesn't patronize you.
Journey annoyed the shit out of me, man.
Really?
Of course it did.
It's supposed to be all relaxing and shit.
You know what? Of course it did.
There's missable fucking collectibles in a game that's about relaxing. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to relax when this prick-faced co-op douche has gone to the end of the level and I can't collect all the doodads?
Well, just
dude,
stop
how am I
him?
supposed to relax when this co-op douche is like trying to hold me back and like not progressing in the level?
Is it just you playing it wrong? I've been stuck with you every time.
Gray, you were definitely playing it wrong because there's nothing in the game that says you have to follow the co-op douche. Like, nothing.
I want to collect all the stuff, and this guy's like going around doing everything. I don't want, like... Can you turn off the co-op stuff? Because fuck people.
Of course you can.
Unplug your stupid machine.
Yeah.
There's a little
Jesus
plug thing in the back that connects it to the goddamn internet.
I saw this is what drives me nuts about Journey.
Oh, Gray, you're going into fucking DSP territory here. Why can't I unplug the internet?
Yeah. So I see a collectible thing, and then I saw like a hill, and I went up the hill, and it ended the level, and I can't get the collectible thing. And I'm just like, can I restart the last level? No, I can't. Do I have to restart the game again? Yes. Fuck this. And
but that's the same in every fucking game.
You are the worst type of person to play games with.
He actually is.
Dude, I actually am.
As someone who's played games
am.
with him.
I drag courage.
He got us killed so many times in Resident Evil 6. Although, to be fair, we had a great session on Dying Light. Hey, we should tell the audience about our cool Dying Light experience, man, with the bridge.
It was a good game.
Is that only like 2 people, or is it?
No, it's up to 4 people. It's a great co-op experience.
We should totally play it.
We should go and play that right after this podcast.
That sounds good.
We should. Yeah. Well, I need to edit this for a couple of hours and then. Yeah, we should.
Well, I mean, it's going to take me forever to upload it anyway, so.
Yeah, good point.
So basically, me and Gray, like, were playing that game the other day, and we saw this gigantic bridge, and we were like, hey, you know, it'd be interesting to see if we could climb up that bridge on one of the girders. And not only could we, but the game actually rewarded us for being so adventurous and exploring. Awesome. Yeah. And
that's like that's like the thing that frustrated me most about Destiny, just the invisible walls fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, there was no.
But the game actually kind of gives you a pat on the back and said, "Hey, well done, good thinking outside the box there. We're going to give you a hell of a reward for this."
That's awesome.
Now, unless there's a later mission where it's,
I think there is, dude.
Part of it or something.
There's a thing where you can sleep up there.
Yeah. But you never know. It was still cool that it let us access it so early. And
okay, bad intros.
We've been ruminating on this for like half an hour, and I genuinely can't think of one of the ones I listed. And even those were like abhorrent.
Well, it's kind of like you said earlier, where you don't play bad games, and games with bad intros generally are bad games.
I've played bad games,
but any game that
wasn't
dumps all the info on you at once is a bad intro, and I think it doesn't happen so much more anymore because they're just getting better at designing them nowadays. You know, it's not like in the old days where you had to read the fucking manual.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because it's like there's so many like materials out there, and like everyone goes to school for game design, and like it's so produced, like so many opinions. You're not gonna like. You'll have some boring ones and like some derivative shit out there, but it's not gonna be as bad, you know.
Yeah. You know what type of intro I really hate? The one where you get all the mechanics dumped on you at once, and you get like the full power character.
Oh yeah.
Fuck that. That is awful.
Like Darksiders does it. Metroid does it, but it's not as bad in Metroid because generally the controls are the same as the previous game.
God of War 2 did it as well.
God of War 2 did it, and that always.
Remember the Lord of the Rings game on PS2 did it, the second one.
Because it's supposed to be like that Mega Man X intro, you know, where you see the character you could be, and then you slowly get to level up and become that. Except when it's you, it just feels like, oh, I've lost all my powers, now I have to regain them. That feels like you're on a fucking treadmill.
Yeah.
And when they do it multiple times in a series, it's like you're on a series of fucking treadmills.
Yeah.
It's so hard to explain, and it is weird because they do it so, you know, to introduce you to the game kind of, but it's like there's better ways to do it.
The reason they do it is because they think the game isn't going to be fun without all of the mechanics in it. And I think a good game should work like you should be able to start your game, give the player like one mechanic to work with, and that should be fun. They should.
I think like the inverse type of intro is like the opposite of that, where it's just like they start you off like seat of your pants, like one like no health, no armor, one clip in your gun kind of thing, you know. I think that's like a lot more exciting and engaging, you know, because it's just like,
absolutely.
all right, I have to get shit done now, you know. Like RE5 did that really well, I think, because it's giving you like one clip and a bunch of zombies streaming at you, and you realize immediately, okay, I have to fucking run now, and I have to be very careful.
I think that's why 6 didn't work as well. 6 gave you too many tools in the beginning.
And
I kind of love that. I love that when the first weapon you get in a game is just your pistol, and you have to make your way with that for a while until you can scrounge an assault rifle or something. I don't know. There's something really satisfying about just starting off with your little pistol.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts of Half-Life as well. Just like the first time you get a pistol, and it's like, okay, now I'm actually fucking equipped to deal with the Combine, and you get it, and as soon as you get it, there's two guys you can just shoot right away, and you feel really fucking powerful.
Plus, it's a cool pistol as well. It's really satisfying to use that little white pistol.
The USP Mac, I think it matches, isn't it?
Yeah.
People complain about regenerating health and like health pickups not being a thing anymore. What actually really gets me about new shooters is weapon progression. Like the problem with
kind of like weapon progression more than leveling up, but I don't know. It feels like I'm getting more attached to the weapon. Yeah.
Like,
what do you mean by weapon progression? Sorry,
upgrading your weapon rather than yourself.
No, not necessarily. I mean, actually, just progressing from weapon to weapon. In most games, it's very in old shooters. It's controlled when and where you get weapons. So in Half-Life, you have this wonderful progression from like pistol to machine gun to shotgun to, and, you know, it's quite traditional in that aspect. But each of the levels is designed around you getting this new tool and you using it.
Yeah,
and you get like really kick-ass ones, like the pulse rifle and the RPG at the end and stuff, and you know.
And through the last few levels of Half-Life 2 as well, the way they are with the ammo drops and stuff, it makes you use all of your weapons, and it gives you specific situations in which they know a certain weapon is going to be the one you're going to have to use, and it's really clever.
So, like,
and then they have
used to have this, in that your weapon progression was very tightly controlled until Resident Evil 5 and 6, which I think fucked it up.
Well, no, it still is. They do slowly progress the weapons. They just give you a lot more of them.
Yeah, but you can buy stuff in 4 and in 6 you start with too much.
Yeah, 6 is...
I found it funny that you started with like fucking Bayonetta dual pistols as Leon, and then your partner has a triple barrel shotgun.
Yeah.
That shotgun's so good.
Do you remember
and with
that
Chris,
bit
you get like an assault rifle and a sniper rifle, and that just feels so un-Resident Evil.
And your fucking Gladius fucking sized knife.
Whereas look at Resident Evil 4 and look
4.
at the weapon progression there. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
The bit where you're in the mansion and you come into this huge room and there's all the dudes with shields coming up either side of the room, and you have to like navigate your way around that room slowly and with just what you have, and by the end of that battle you always have like maybe 2 bullets left in your gun, and it's just so well done with the weapons.
Even Resi 5 I think handles like depletion of ammo really well, because you constantly just have enough, basically, I think.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing with Shiva, then it doesn't handle depletion of ammo so well.
Burns through her ammo,
You just give her a pistol and that's it.
No, like, I've only played it in co-op, so I felt like playing with an AI partner would have just been fucking miserable.
I don't think she ever runs out of ammo for her pistol, actually. I think that's a thing. So I never gave her anything except the pistol.
Yeah.
So if we're going to talk about bad intros, I guess we have to define what a bad intro is. Like, just a bad intro to a bad game is just a bad game, isn't it? It has to be a good game where the intro sells it short or doesn't.
A bad intro is something that either confuses you in how the game plays, or puts too much info on you at once, or makes you think, I don't want to play this game.
Or too little info.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to talk about Morrowind, which is a game I love, and the intro is fine for the most part, but, you know, I started playing it as, like, a stupid kid, and, like, just throwing me into that shit, I didn't know what to do. Like, you just, you make your character, you go to a guy, he throws a bunch of text at you. I don't read the text because I'm too busy, you know, playing video games.
Well,
and then I'm just like stuck running around. It's like super low level.
Read the fucking manual, Corey.
I doesn't read the text.
I actually mentioned that in the last
Corey,
podcast.
why are you playing an RPG if you're not reading the text?
Well, just when I was a stupid kid, that's just like I didn't, you know, I wanted to play games. I didn't want to read all the stuff, and
I think the moral of the story here is Morrowind isn't a game for stupid kids.
No, it isn't. I mean, like I said before on the last podcast, I'm a child of the objective marker era, and Morrowind is just too open for me. Like I do not know what to do with myself when I get told do whatever you want. I'm just like, could you give me like a list? And he does give you a list, and I'm like,
and there's a balance.
Where do I go?
between like the list and the pure openness of it.
Yeah. I mean, Oblivion leaves it very open for you. Like, it doesn't tell you where you can go. It just says, here's the map, go do whatever you want. And like, but it gives you like fast travel points for all the cities. And generally, as soon as you walk into the city, you see something like you either get like given a dynamic quest, or you see like Mages Guild, Fighters Guild, whatever. And you know, it'll direct you itself relatively smartly, but you know,
I love the mod for Skyrim that turns the quest markers into descriptions in your journal. So it takes away your quest markers, and it gives you kind of descriptions of where to go and how to find stuff, and it's really much more immersive.
Yeah, it has to be like
following the dot,
quick and easily accessible. But the markers are problematic. They do just baby you.
Do any of you remember the original intros for like Tekken or Tekken 2?
Yes, the one where Kazuya throws what's his face off the cliff and then turns to the camera and smirks.
Yeah.
I fucking love that one.
Groundbreaking for the time. Absolutely hilarious in retrospect.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought like it would look really cool. It was like Hwoarang practicing his moves and everything, but some of the shit was just fucking silly.
I really got
the original Killer Instinct had that as well. Like, I remember them saying they wanted to get like a mocap suit for some of the characters, but the mocap suit they had was either like a prototype or it was broken, and they couldn't get a woman to do Orchid, so they just put a guy in the suit and tried to make him do like a sexy female walk. Yeah.
I remember seeing that magazine cover for Orchid, where it's supposed to be sexy, like the old Lara Croft posters that are supposed to be sexy. And
Orchid
she's got
looks
like
terrifying.
A cuboid head.
Yeah.
And like these huge like these huge tits, but they can't do
pyramid
rounded
tits.
Surfaces, so they're like triangles. And I'm like, I can't believe I used to whack off to this.
Used to be a different world, dude.
Yeah.
Used to be a different world.
Even back in the day, like I was saying this to a friend of mine the other day. Like, generally when I was growing up, I played quite a few fighters growing up. People was like either Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, and there was that 1% of people who played Killer Instinct instead, and that was me. So I was just like, hey guys, don't you like this werewolf and this skeleton and this totally guy who isn't Ryu? I promise.
You know, I thought we'd have loads of good examples of bad intros, and I'm actually struggling to think of stuff too.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, the bad intros are the intros that like just don't exist. Like, for just stuff that doesn't get you set up for the game.
Because bad intros aren't memorable because of how bad they are, you know?
Yeah. True. Oh shit, good intro though? Battle Block Theater with the narration.
Oh my god.
Fantastic.
Fucking Stamper is the funniest dude. I love that intro so much. And all the cutscenes in that game are just hysterical.
It's 0 to 60, and then those video bits with him are just pure gold all the way through.
Oh, I mean, just imagine how easy it would be for those to get really old, and they don't, which is really impressive. But I think we've pretty much reached the end of the...
This was going to be a shorter one, and it's going to end up longer than the other one. I know.
I think it was
good job, guys.
There's a lot of
No.
stuff I can cut. That was fun. I think that
So
flowed a lot better
Should
than
we?
the other one.
Are we gonna say goodbye and end it, or
Yeah.
are we just gonna
talk
casually
casually.
just drop off?
Let's just cut it off at
About
the
it.
end without saying goodbye.
Well, yeah.
So I says to Mavis, but that's a story for another time.
Or how
We've
about-
reached the end of our podcast adventures for today, but we hope... fuck it.